The story begins when we see someone floating through an odd space, tired and in pain, but afraid to take one step further into the light. This person is then reincarnated into a mystical world in the form of a baby at a temple. He still has memories from his previous life, but they are distant and vague. He sees three scary and powerful looking beings around him: a skeleton, a mummy, and a specter. So he cries violently as he is terrified, thinking they're going to kill him. However, they end up raising and caring for him. They gave him the name Will, and when he turns 6 months old, he can now generally understand the language of this world, although he can't speak yet. The mummy takes him outside the temple for the first time, where Will begins to cry because the outside world is so beautiful. At first, he thought he was in hell being punished after living such a hopelessly vague life, but realizes he was wrong. This is no punishment, but the grace of God. By the time he was 3 years old, he was already able to read and write like an adult. The specter, whose name is Gus, teaches him the history of this world and the knowledge of magic. Will finds Gus to be a little eccentric and overbearing, but smarter than anyone else he'd met. Gus teaches Will the power of words. He explains that these words, whether spoken or written, have power. For example, if you write the word ignis, it defines the existence of fire, but when followed by the word irasure, the fire is extinguished. The mummy then takes Will to a room where there are several statues of the gods they worship: the god of justice and lightning, called Volt, the Earth Mother, called Mater, and the god of fire and technology, called Blaze. There are a few more, but one statue in particular catches his attention: the goddess of light, called Gracefeel, who is the child of the lightning god Volt and Earth Mother Mater. The mummy, whose name is Mary, explains that the Earth Mother Mater is the god of child rearing and the bounties of the earth. Therefore, she feels that Mater is the most important goddess, adding that she is particularly revered by people in rural areas. Will asks Mary if she prays to the Earth Mother every day, but she avoids the question by telling him it's time to eat. At dinner, the skeleton, called Blood, tells Will that when he's a bit older, he'll teach him how to hunt. However, Gus wants Will to focus on learning magic first, saying that he might be just as much a genius as him. Blood unruly says, "What if he grows up to be an old miser with an oversized brain, like you?" Will acknowledges that Blood looks scary, but likes him because he keeps things lively and friendly. Mary always brings Will some bread with meals, so he asks her where she gets it from, but she tells him it's a secret. The three of them keep many secrets, like why they live here, why are there no other humans apart from Will, and why are they undead. Will has never met anyone but the three of them since he was born. He has so many questions, but can't bring himself to ask them, because he's keeping a secret from them himself, that he is a human with memories of his previous life. When Will is a little older, he undergoes arduous training with Blood. He says, "We gotta build your muscle and stamina first, as skills are useless without the muscle to back them up." Blood also teaches Will swordsmanship and how to hunt in the forest. Gus teaches him magic. He is working on his pronunciation, telling him that words have fluctuations, and that no one can say a word in exactly the same way twice. Gus says he'll start by learning how to use minor magic skillfully and accurately, but needs to try his best to get by without using it. Will asks him how, to which Gus says, money. Will asks how a ghost can be such a money worshipper, but Gus says that money is important, as it is what drives this world. He says with the power of money, you can solve anything without magic, and goes into a fit of excitement thinking about counting gold coins. Mary teaches Will the knowledge of other races. She tells him that the three of them used to be humans, but before they died, they clung to powerful emotions that led them to form a contract with the god of the undead. The next day, Blood tells Will it's time he started some real-life training, as he's almost 8 years old. Will says, "If I take a hit with your ridiculous strength, I'm dead." Blood says he'll be fine, and tests Will with a duel. Will can use a combination of magic and swordsmanship to put up a good fight with Blood. He uses the power of the words well, but due to his lack of combat experience, he's unable to defeat Blood. Blood says he's got a long way to go, but frankly, he is surprised at how well he is progressing. Will then learns that Gus was once hailed as the Wandering Sage. He's exterminated monsters, calmed raging rivers, and rediscovered ancient languages. Blood was once known as the War Ogre, and Mary was known as the daughter of Mater. Although they're undead, Will considers them his family. Blood is his foster father, Mary is his foster mother, and Gus is his foster grandfather. One day, when Will returned from training, he sees Mary bringing a piece of bread from a room. Although he was told not to enter that room, he is too curious, and upon entering, he sees Mary's whole body surrounded by fire. Afraid that Mary will die, he rushes to save her, but ends up hurting his arms badly. His little arms had severe third-degree burns, and Mary blames herself for keeping secrets. Although his hands can recover, the scarring left behind will be unavoidable. Gus explains that the bread is a gift from the Earth Mother Mater, which prompts the question from Will, "Why did you burn?" Mary explains that it's because she betrayed the Earth Mother Mater by becoming an undead. The impure god of death, called Stagnate, is the Earth Mother Mater's enemy, and since the three of them formed a contract with him, just coming in contact with Mater's divine presence causes them to burn. 5 years pass and Will is 13 years old, thus his training is becoming more and more difficult. Blood captures a low-ranked demon's corpse for Will to practice against, and he easily defeats it with a slash that surprised Blood. Blood decides to speed up his training by taking him to the ruined city, where humans and dwarves used to reside, but now it's a dangerous place full of wandering undead. Blood leaves Will in a cave alone to test him. Several undead appear, however, Will manages to defeat them all easily. He must now find the exit, but on the way he meets an undead Vrascus demon, which are stronger than any opponent he's faced as they're able to use magic too. Will considers slipping past it, or even going another route, but thinks what Blood would do, and bravely faces the Vrascus. The Vrascus demon attempts to use magic, but with the lessons Gus taught Will, he is able to counter it, and goes in for an attack with his sword. However, his sword broke upon impact, but his attack ended up killing the Vrascus anyway. Since Will's sword is done, he picks up the magic spear from the undead he just defeated, which was made by dwarves. Gus then appears with a blank expression on his face, and uses his words to summon a golem to fight Will. However, Will defeats it with ease, but is confused to why Gus is trying to kill him. Just as Will is about to kill Gus, he stops, and says hurting you would make me feel worse than dying myself. Gus then apologizes to Will, and says he took that lesson a bit too far. Will is shocked that Gus is trying to pass it all off as a lesson, but doesn't say anything and they return to the temple. Will notices Gus hadn't brought up the incident at the cave, and thinks there must be a reason why he won't talk about it, so he decides not to tell Blood or Mary. Gus then has a private conversation with Will, and tells him that Blood is going to challenge him to a serious duel. Gus wants Will to find a way to lose the duel in a way that Blood won't notice. Will wants to know why, but Gus won't give him an answer. Will becomes extremely frustrated with Gus, and tells him that he can't help him with the duel, adding on the way out, "I'll pretend I didn't hear a word of what you just said." Will runs to the room with the statues of the gods, where Mary reveals that Blood worships the god of fire, Blaze, and Gus worships the wind god, called Whirl. Blood swore to Blaze that he would train every day and grow strong. On the other hand, Mary told Mater that she would live in a way that would honor her will. Mary tells Will that Gus swore to the wind god that he would do as he pleased and enjoy life, as he hates being bound by anything. Years later, we see that Will has grown quite a bit. It is the evening and he has just finished training with Blood. Blood brings some alcohol he made himself for them to drink, and after they get drunk together, Blood suggests they take a little peek at Mary while she's changing. While they're spying on her, Will trips and opens the door. Mary asks Blood what the hell he gave Will to drink, and Blood avoids it by saying we were just gonna have a little peek while you changed. Will says I told him we shouldn't. However, a rather unholy Mary slaps him into next week. The following day, Blood intensely spars with Will. He is like a storm with his attacks, so Will is finding it hard to get in a strike without being hit. Will then pulls out an epic move, using his shield to block Blood's sword so he can use it as a ramp to take him down. Just when Will was about to strike, Blood throws him away like a plastic bag. Will concedes, and Blood says having no muscles really is a disadvantage. Blood then gives Will a surprise gift, the most powerful of all the demon blades he owns. Will is confused, because he didn't even win, but Blood explains that it's to mark his new independence. The sword is called Overeater, and if a living being is cut with this blade, its wielder recovers life force with each cut. He also says that the more he uses it, the more dependent he'll become, until he's so weak that there's nothing left of him, and that's probably part of what makes it a demon blade. Now Will is old enough, Mary and Blood decide to tell him the secrets about the king among demon kings, who tried to conquer their continent. About 200 years ago, the demon kings led a great uprising. An army of countless demons invaded the continent, so the place was crawling with demon kings and generals. These swarms of demons offered up massive amounts of flesh and blood, in a number of great rituals to their deity, the god of dimensions. The High King went on a rampage in their continent, and Blood explains that his nicknames don't even come close to the truth, adding that his abilities were absolutely insane. He could turn any blood he shed into soldiers, and any flesh cut from his body into commanders, in unlimited amounts. In other words, he made demons from his own flesh and blood. Only blades can harm him. Arrows and magic wouldn't even leave a mark. Blood says his weapon of choice was Overeater, which shocks Will. Mary explains that eventually, he came to be called the High King, meaning the king of all kings. Blood says that even with the help of Gus's magic and Mary's blessing, he was no match for the High King. And because he is an undead, he can't grow, therefore his sword skills can't improve any further. Since they couldn't kill the High King, Mary and Gus placed a seal on him, and the High King was sealed deep beneath this land. We then discover that Gus, Mary, and Blood are bound to this city by their contract with Stagnate. If they agreed to join his army of undead, he'd kill all the demons that were in the city and allow them to defend the seal in their immortal bodies. Will figures out that he was meant to be a sacrifice to break the High King's seal. However, after the demons that brought Will to them were slain, they decided to keep him and raise him like one of their own. They thought humanity had gone extinct, but the fact that the demons were able to bring him there means there must be a place inhabited by humans close by. And so, Will now knows why he is there. He's about to head into a nation of people who survived the Great Uprising. A few moments later, Mary and Blood tell Will they love him and how he is a strong, clever boy. Will is confused to why it sounds like they're saying their last goodbyes. Then all of a sudden, a demonic portal opens up in the sky, and out comes the infamous High King. He asks if they've said their farewells, as he's here to take the souls of Blood and Mary. Will is paralyzed so he can't even move, but just then, Gus appears. He tells Will to take Blood and Mary and get out of here, declaring that he is going to stop the High King. Gus uses his strongest magic and gets rid of the High King, or so he thinks. Suddenly, Gus is paralyzed by the High King, along with Mary and Blood. We discover that the High King divided his strength into two bodies, in case something like that happened. He leaves only Will and proposes a deal. If he joins his undead army, he will let him live in harmony forever with his undead family, and gives him till evening to think about it. At night, Will goes to see the High King to tell him his answer. Will bravely says, "I'm not giving you a single thing." So Stagnate summons his army of undead. Will impresses Stagnate with his abilities, so he stops his undead army, and asks again if he would join him, as he's taken a liking to Will. He says, "I will welcome you as a general in my undead army," and cuts himself, telling Will to drink his blood. When it seems that Will is going to accept, he takes out the sword Blood gave him and attacks Stagnate. However, the High King unleashes a demon snake that bites Will, and suddenly he is transported to a strange place, where it seems like he had been before. He finds the goddess of light, and in the end, he makes a pact with her. That is, the goddess will give her protection and guidance, so long as he does not forget his resolve. Upon waking, Stagnate is disappointed that he made an oath with Gracefeel, as he hoped Will would join his ranks. The undead attack Will, but they are no match for Overeater. Stagnate suddenly disappears using the cloud of dust, and Will is left wondering where he went. Gracefeel then appears and faces Will in the direction of the temple. Will then uses his accelerate ability to get over there as soon as possible, after realizing that the High King is after Blood and Mary. When Will arrives, the High King is just about to kill Blood. Will tries to stop him but knows he will not make it in time, but suddenly, a goddess appears who Will doesn't recognize, and after saying goodbye, he realizes that the Earth Mother never hated Mary for accepting Stagnate's deal. Mary starts to cry, and at that moment, Stagnate casts a lightning spell at Will, but he stops it with his magic and takes advantage of this opportunity to charge with his sword and begins to hit Stagnate with a vicious flurry of attacks. Will ends up defeating the High King, and after we see him vanish completely, everyone is very excited and congratulates Will. However, when they're about to leave, Mary and Blood fall to the ground. They tell Will that since they lost their attachment and denied selling their souls to Stagnate, their time has come to an end. Will begins to cry and asks if there's anything he can do, as he doesn't want to lose them. However, they calm him down and tell him that there's nothing he can do, but they're proud of who he has become, and want him to stay on the right path. Will then begins to see pictures above their heads from when they were human. Then Gus arrives, and the four of them enjoy their last moments together. After Blood and Mary die, the goddess takes their souls, and they will go back into the cycle of death and rebirth. Comment below if you would like a part 2. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on another video. Until next time, take care.